Beam me up, Scotty is probably one of the best known catchphrases of the past 50 years. And Scotty, Star Trek's second officer Montgomery Scott, was one of the long-running sci-fi show's favorite characters, often helping to save the Starship Enterprise and her crew from certain annihilation. But how many know that the actor who played Scotty, Canadian James Doohan, was actually a real-life World War II hero? James Montgomery Doohan, yes, his middle name was the same as his Star Trek character's first name, was born in Vancouver, British Columbia on March 3, 1920. His parents, Sarah and William, had both recently arrived in Canada from Bangor in Northern Ireland's County Down. In fact, Doohan had actually been conceived in Ireland. In his autobiography, Doohan remembered a childhood partially blighted by his father's alcoholism and the unpredictable outbursts of temper that sometimes erupted. Interestingly, as a youngster, Doohan was a compulsive imitator of accents that he'd picked up from movie theaters and radio shows of the day. In a portent of what the future would hold for the young Doohan, he played the lead in a school production of Robin Hood when he was 16. By then, the family was living in Sarnia, Ontario, a city on the banks of Lake Huron close to the US border. But it seems that the delights of Sarnia had little hold over Doohan, and in 1939 he joined the Royal Canadian Artillery as a gunner. He did this shortly after Canada, allied with the UK, declared war on Adolf Hitler's Germany on September 10, 1939. Obviously impressing his superiors, Gunner Doohan was commissioned as a lieutenant in the 14th Field Artillery Regiment of the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division. He then traveled to England for further training. There he acted as an aide-de-camp to a senior officer planning the disastrous 1942 Dieppe mission. This attack on the northern coast of German-occupied France by 6,000 mostly Canadian troops ended with 3,623 men dead, wounded, or taken prisoner. Doohan was probably lucky not to have actually been sent to the English Channel to Dieppe. But in 1944, he was part of an equally hazardous mission, D-Day, on June 6th. Doohan's regiment was to land on the so-called Juno Beach, one of 5 landing points on France's Normandy coast to be seized by the Allies in their invasion of France. 2 brigades from the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division, supported by Canada's Navy and the British Royal Navy, were given the lead in taking Juno Beach. The Canadians were to take Carpiquet Airport, as well as an important road between the towns of Bayeux and Caen. They were also to link up with forces landing on their 2 landing beaches on each side of Juno. The Germans had 2 battalions in place to defend the beach, with a force of tanks held in reserve. The German troops from the 716th Division put up a stiff opposition to the invading force. The invaders were also hindered by bad weather, which delayed their landing, and the fact that the prior naval bombardment caused less destruction than planned. Although some units of the Royal Winnipeg Rifles, Doohan's regiment, suffered heavy casualties on the landing, Doohan led his 120-man company without loss to a village by the sea called Grailles-sur-Mer. However, his day was hardly without incident. He witnessed one captain suffer a breakdown under the stress of combat and saw another man take a serious wound to the stomach. And in Grailles-sur-Mer, things became decidedly hotter. A German machine gun nest set up in a nearby church tower now opened fire on Doohan and his men. This put all of them in mortal danger, but Doohan had the presence of mind to act decisively. Grabbing a comrade's rifle, he drew a bead on the Germans manning the machine gun. His first shot went wide of the target. Then, with deadly accuracy, his next 2 shots hit 2 of the Germans. The machine gun stopped firing. Doohan never knew if he'd killed or only injured the men he hit. Now it was Doohan's turn to be wounded. Darkness had fallen in the village, and he was making his way to his command post. Suddenly, machine gun fire hammered out. In his 1996 autobiography, Beam Me Up, Scotty, Doohan wrote, "A machine gun opened up on us. It hit me and spun me around. Staggering, I fell down into the shell hole." Doohan continued, "Then I looked at my right hand and saw the blood covering it. I could see the holes in my middle finger." Doohan now took himself off to a nearby first aid post. It was only then that he realized that not only had 3 shots crashed into his right hand, but 4 others had hit him in the left leg. And after discovering the wounds to his leg, Doohan now noticed something else. There was a bullet hole in his uniform on the right-hand side of his chest. In his autobiography, Doohan remembered reaching round with his good left hand to his right pocket. "I pulled out the sterling silver cigarette case that my brother Bill had given me when I was his best man, and there I discovered a dent in it. The bullet had come in at an angle, ricocheted off the cigarette case, and bounced away, 4 inches from my heart. Doohan wrote in his book, and it turned out that this near-fatal attack had been a case of friendly fire from the Bren gun of a jumpy Canadian sentry. After his serious wounds, which would have been the end of him, Doohan got off relatively lightly, but for the fact that his middle finger had to be amputated. That was the end of Doohan's spell as a frontline fighter, and he now trained as a pilot, flying Taylor-Craft Oster Mark V's as an artillery support officer. At something of a loose end after the war, Doohan took a course at a Toronto drama school. He then applied for a place at the theater in Manhattan's neighborhood Playhouse School and actually won a scholarship. This was to be the start of a long and prolific career acting in TV and radio shows as well as film. Think of an iconic 1960s TV show, and Doohan was probably in it. He played parts in everything from Bewitched to The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Twilight Zone, among many others. Then in 1966, Doohan auditioned for a new show, Star Trek. For his part as the chief engineer of the Starship Enterprise, he was paid the princely sum of $850 per episode. And Star Trek, of course, became an enduring phenomenon that rolls on to this day. Doohan continued to play Scotty until his final Star Trek movie appearance in 1994, Star Trek Generations. After his death in July 2005, some of his ashes were flown into space aboard a Falcon 9 rocket. Check out these other videos from Let Me Know. If you haven't made the move to subscribe to our channel, all you need to do is click on that red subscribe button. Thank you for watching.